Are you someone who finds it difficult to stay focused on some task? Are you someone who finds it difficult to make a promise and stick to it? Hi, I'm Sumedhan Ramesh, and in this video, I'm going to talk about how to deal with distractions. And this is a common problem that all of us face, where in this current day and age, when we have smartphones with us and when we have access to social media, it is much more easier for us to get distracted, and it is much more difficult for us to stay focused on some particular task, and it is much more difficult for us to force and push ourselves through difficult times or do something that is challenging. So before I give you guys any sort of suggestion or step by step process that you can follow, if at all that is what you're looking for, I'll briefly touch upon what distraction is and the opposite of distractions. So, being distracted is you essentially trying to do so many things at the same time. You could also say it is multitasking, or you could also look at distractions as something where you don't tend to focus a particular period of time in doing one task, and your mind is not able to do that particular task with full involvement. And it doesn't necessarily have to be focus that is the opposite of distraction, but rather the opposite of distraction is something called flow state. And when you enter into flow state, that is when you tend to have the most productive aspect of any work that you're trying to do. So your productivity is at its max when you are in a flow state. And when you look at the elements that are behind flow state, or the elements that describe flow state, focus is one aspect of it, definitely, but you have certain other aspects also. And one other aspect of flow state is creativity. And when you have a sort of creative expression in the work that you're doing, and when you have a level of enthusiasm, when you have a level of desire behind the work that you're doing, you reaching flow state or your mind reaching flow state is much more easier, simply because of that involvement in the work that you're doing, and also that creative element to it. When you do something creative, you're trying to think outside the box, and any sort of work that you do is going to have its own unique nature to it. And so being able to tap into flow state and thereby working on some really important task that you have during the day is something that will take a lot of time in trying to develop it as a habit if you're someone who's habituated to getting easily distracted. And it varies from person to person, your ability to tap into flow state and stay in that flow state for a period of time. Usually what people say is that if you spend 4 hours continuously on a particular task, then you will eventually be able to occasionally tap into flow state and have like the most productive work that you possibly can. And you may not be able to tap into this flow state every time, but you eventually will be able to develop that habit which will get you into that flow state and do the best work possible. So again, the ability for someone to develop that habit is going to vary depending upon the type of distraction that you have and the habits that you have based on those distractions. So usually in most scenarios, the reasons behind someone that get distracted is 4 reasons. The first one being boredom. If say you're doing something and you're bored by doing that same task over and over again, you will have this tendency to want to check your phone and want to get distracted or want to check social media because you feel bored. And if that is a reason as to why you're getting distracted, a simple solution is to just check yourself and take a small break because of this boredom that you have. The second reason is trying to be perfect. So if say you're trying to do a task and you want the task to go really well, or you don't want to make any mistake at all, that tendency to try to being perfect is going to be detrimental, not because you are you have this tendency to get distracted, but more so because you will put yourself down or you'll get discouraged because of this need to be perfect. And the moment you get discouraged and the moment you put yourself down is when your mind will now start to go and seek those distractions, because you have now put yourself down, and you don't have that motivation to push yourself. The third reason being habitual. So again, like I said, varying from person to person, you might be someone who's actually habituated to having distractions going on in your day-to-day activities, and so you have to look at that habit and try to break that bad habit and develop a good one in place of that bad habit. And the fourth one being tired. So you might be working on something, but you are putting in consistent effort and you're not taking breaks in the middle, and you are like constantly spending your energy and time, and when you do get tired, your mind is essentially giving you a signal that it wants a break. And when you do get that signal and you still push yourself through and you still try to work in spite of being tired, in certain scenarios you might feel like trying to do something else and choose the distraction instead of doing the work that you want to do. And that is just the mind's way of trying to take a break and relax for a mind and reset, such that by taking that reset you can, or the mind can, go back to the work and do it much better. So these are the four possible reasons where in most scenarios you could easily get distracted. And I would suggest you guys look into each of the reasons, as in your own scenario, as in when you get distracted. I would suggest you guys to figure out why is it that you get distracted based on the four reasons that I just listed before. And when you do know that this is the reason as to why you get distracted, that awareness is going to help you that much more in trying to pick it up the next time. So if you do get distracted the next time, you now know what the possible reason is, because you notice that same pattern or you notice that same behavior before. So you'll be able to catch it the next time and be able to minimize those distractions and start focusing on the work that you need to focus on. And the biggest challenge, in my opinion, when it comes to dealing with distractions and making like long-term changes is emotional obstacles. And why do I believe that emotional obstacles are the biggest challenge that you will face in trying to deal with distractions is because that is usually what the root problem is. In most scenarios, if you are choosing to get distracted, it is not because you have no motivation, or it is not because the type of work that you're doing is boring, or the type of work that you're doing does not have meaning. It is more so because there is some problem that is there in your mind, that your mind realizes it has a problem, but you choose not to address that problem because of certain emotional investments to it, or because you don't believe that you can solve that problem. Or it could also be because you are unknown of the next state, as in you do not know what will happen once you do solve the problem, and you might have a fear based on that unknown, or you might have that fear based on that unpredictable state which you have never even thought of or imagined of when you do solve the problem. So based on these reasons, you might put yourself down and you might tell yourself it is okay, I don't need to necessarily address this problem. And by not doing so, by not addressing these problems, all you do is just waste more time and energy having this problem stuck in your mind, and it is only going to be detrimental by not letting you focus on important tasks where you need to focus. And the quicker you do address these problems, the quicker you face them and get rid of them or solve them, the better it is, because then your mind has more empty space. The moment you solve these problems that are there, your mind has more clarity, and when your mind does have clarity, now you can fill anything that you need to fill in your mind, and you can, that will be a completely personal choice of yours, because now you do have control, and this control that you have is because of empty space in your mind. So again, you will have emotions attached to these problems, and you do have to face those emotions, you do have to confront them, and you do have to deal with these emotions. There is no other way. Or you can also look at the problem and realize whether this problem is something that to deal with in the first place. And if you realize, or if you figure out that this problem is something that you don't need to deal with, then all you have to do is let it go. And by letting it go, you also let go of the pain and suffering that is attached to it, and you don't need to deal with any sort of emotional problems or emotional obstacles behind that thought that is holding you back. So the 4-step process, in my opinion, which you guys can follow in order to take action and stay consistent with these habitual changes that you're trying to make to minimize your distractions, is as follows. The first step is to plan your day, as in you time block the important tasks that you have to do in a day. So you can list down 2 to 3 important tasks that you have to get finished in one day, and block your daily calendar, as in spend 2 hours or spend 3 hours doing that one task, and you arrange those time periods as and when you feel like doing it. So if you think that you can be more productive, or if you think that you can get the most work at night time, then so be it. You can time block at night and do that particular task at night. Or if you feel like you can do that task in the afternoon, then go ahead and do that time block in the afternoon and get that work done in the afternoon. So again, that is completely up to you. When is it that you do the task? But as and when, so long as you're planning your day and having these time blocks, it will be much more easier for you to focus on those tasks. So that's the first step. The second step is to deliberately indulge in distractions with lesser dopamine hit. So instead of trying to force yourself to not have any distractions, instead of trying to force yourself to work and be more productive, I would encourage you guys to do some to choose some distraction. I would encourage you guys to spend some time deliberately wasting it. And when you do that, it becomes much more easier for you to, or it becomes much more easier for your mind to not resist, because you deliberately choose to waste your time. You deliberately choose to pursue those distractions, and you in a way can see it as a break. You can also see it as an ability to not be too worried about the task that you have. So when you do deliberately indulge in these distractions, you will minimize your anxiety behind being more productive and being more disciplined and sticking to this goal or sticking to this process. That anxiety that you might have behind that will decrease, because you are deliberately indulging in these distractions. So I encourage you guys to do it, and obviously it is better to choose those distractions with lesser dopamine hits. So whatever distractions it is that you possibly can indulge in, choose the one with the least dopamine hit, because it is going to, the ones with the lowest dopamine hit is what is going to make you less habituated to it. The ones with a higher dopamine hit might become more addictive in nature, and so it will be even more difficult for you to deal with those distractions. The third step is to have real world conversations in your free time. So again, going back to the first step, I would suggest you guys to assign some time period for having free time as well, which could be separate from your distractions also. So you could have these 2 time blocks, where in the first time block you are indulging in distractions, and the second time block you are indulging in real world conversations with people. Or you can merge the 2 and keep it as one as well. You can look at having conversations with people, like people in your social circle, as a sort of distraction as well. And the reason as to why I suggest you guys do this is because you need to have interactions with people in the real world, such that your mind is more healthy, like it is in a more healthy state. And you need your mind to be in a more healthy state so that you can focus on difficult tasks in the further days as well. And the fourth and final step is to try to get back up if you slip or if you relapse as soon as possible. And the emphasis here being as soon as possible. So it is completely fine if you do make any mistakes. It is completely fine if you are not able to stick to a schedule. It is completely fine if you are not able to work to the extent that you planned to work on. But what is important is that you look at you accept that you made a mistake and you try to get back up. And the moment you try to accept and get back up as soon as possible, you will be able to focus on whatever work that you need to do, because you now gotten back up. And the benefit of doing this is that you will minimize the time and energy worrying, or you will minimize the time and energy putting yourself down. And when you minimize the time and energy putting yourself down, you essentially train your mind to start getting back to work. And when you train your mind to start getting back to work, you develop more self-confidence, and you develop an ability to work, and you develop an ability to stay motivated, because you spend less time and energy putting yourself down. You spend less time and energy thinking pessimistically, or you spend less time and energy training your mind to be more negative or to worry more. You essentially train your mind to be more positive, to be more motivational, to be more energetic, to be more curious, to be more open-minded, and you develop that skill in your mindset. So if at all you do fall down, try to get back up as soon as possible, so such that you can also develop that mindset which will enable you to get back up quickly, not put yourself down, and stay motivated. So that is all for this video. If you guys found value, please comment below. If you disagreed upon something, or if you have any questions, please post that in the comment section as well. And if you feel like this video might benefit someone that you know, feel free to share it with them and have discussions with them based on whatever it is that I said in this video. And thank you for watching.